Late last night, Parliament approved a law which clears postmasters who were convicted as part of the Horizon IT scandal. Convictions in England, Wales and Northern Ireland will be quashed today when the bill receives royal assent and addresses one of the greatest miscarriages of justice in British legal history.
Hundreds of people were wrongly found guilty of fraud, theft and false accounting as a result of failings with the system. A long-running inquiry into the roots of the scandal will continue later with a final day of testimony from the former Post Office boss Paula Venables. Already, she's acknowledged how people suffered as a result of everything that happened.
I would just like to say, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to do this in person, how sorry I am for all that sub-postmasters and their families and others who suffered.
Well, joining us in the studio now is Michael Madden, a solicitor who represented some of the local victims of the scandal. I mean, first of all, we must talk about what's happened in Parliament last night and what will happen today. I mean, the idea of these convictions being quashed, that must come as a huge relief to these individuals.
It is. It's been a long road with lots of ups and downs, but this is really the day that we've been waiting for. It's a massive day. The expectation is today that the law will be passed and, in effect, the convictions will be overturned from today's date.
And whenever you listen to Paula Venables there speak about the impact on people and the acknowledgement of the suffering that there's been, just tell me what that has been like for the individuals you've been dealing with, because I can only imagine what they've gone through. What has it been like? What kind of an impact has it had?
The clients that I would represent, it's a depressingly similar pattern that they've all had to go through. The devastation, not just from convictions, but even people who haven't been convicted, who have been accused of stealing from Post Office and have lost their reputations. It has just really devastated their family life, their mental health, their physical health, their financial health. Some postmasters unfortunately took their own lives as a direct result of what happened to them with Post Office. So it's very couldn't underestimate really the damage that has been done to people.
And clearly, one of the key things has been to get rid of these convictions, to have them quashed. But you imagine that's not all that they want. That is not just what they want as a result of everything that has emerged from this scandal. What more do they feel is still needed to get them the justice they deserve?
Well, this is the main thing that they wanted. There's no doubt about that. That was anybody that I've spoken to, even the people who haven't been convicted. There's a very supportive attitude with all the postmasters to have the convictions overturned. But you're right that the other steps then that people are looking at, for example, would be compensation, which, as a result of the convictions being overturned, leads now to a scheme which should kick in straight away, where there's a set amount, an automatic amount that people will be able to claim straight away. And again, people are focusing on the inquiry and what's coming out through the inquiry. And the next step, I think, really is looking at what the Met will do, what the police will do. Will there be convictions? Will there be people being sentenced to prison sentences?
With that in mind, I'm sure people have been watching that inquiry. I'm sure they've been watching that testimony from Paula Venables, the former Post Office boss, during the week. I'm sure you have as well. I want to play you a clip of some of that testimony that's already been given. This is a point whenever she became emotional.
I phoned the family and I spoke to the father, who explained to me that there were other issues involved. And I imagine that, I imagine that I was probably...
Ms. Venables, just rather than trying to talk through your...
I beg your pardon.
Just pause.
Yes, OK.
What have you made of Paula Venables' testimony?
Well, I think postmasters and perhaps the wider public could be forgiven for being quite sceptical and finding it difficult to have any real sympathy for Paula Venables. There are other parts of the evidence that she gave to the inquiry. For example, she has admitted that she made a decision to really protect the reputation of the post office at the expense of postmasters. I mean, that's absolutely devastating evidence. And the fact that that decision was made in over 10 years ago now, you've had that length of time of distress and devastation to people's lives. So it has been very difficult for people to hear that. And I know Paula Venables said that her evidence would be difficult to hear, but perhaps not for the reasons that she had maybe thought it would be difficult.
Do you feel, because you talked about the idea of an investigation by the Met, by looking at this, do you feel that there is the possibility of criminal charges? Is that something that you're pushing for?
Well, the accusations against post office management and post office investigators is that there was a failure to investigate properly, there was a failure to provide proper disclosure, and if those failures were deliberate acts to undermine prosecutions, to undermine the defence to prosecutions, that really could constitute perverting the course of justice. Now, perverting the course of justice is clearly a very serious offence.
Very serious.
And in the context of what has happened to people's lives, probably it's hard to see any cases that are any more serious than this case. So certainly eyes will be on what the police do at the end of this inquiry and what will end up in the courts.
Just finally, it is worth mentioning Fujitsu as well, who were involved in this. I know as well you've been pursuing conversations with them. Where has that reached?
Fujitsu have a very important part to play still. For example, there's a group of children of the postmasters who have set up a group and are in discussions with Fujitsu. There has been a meeting promised with the families, but that hasn't taken place. So there have been promises still made, but haven't been met as yet. So the hope is that Fujitsu will do the right thing and meet people and make good on some of the damage that has been caused.
But today, for those families, this is a really important day.
It's probably the most important day in the last 15 to 20 years for people. People are really, I just hope they can enjoy the relief today. I hope they can enjoy the high of it, because it's been a long time coming, and it's just great to see the relief on people's faces.
Michael, really good to have you in the studio this morning. We really appreciate your time this morning. That's Michael Madden. He's representing some of those local victims of that post office scandal.